Hello, and welcome to the Holy and Honey podcast with your host, Kelly.
And Perrin.
And today we're going to talk about why you became a nurse and all things nursing, what you experience, what your daily life is like, because since I've been friends with you, I can't even begin to imagine what you experience and what you go through. And that was one of the questions that we wanted to save for its own podcast of just why you became a nurse and do you feel a shift with your future and what that looks like. So answer that question for us. Why did you become a nurse? So I think it's a multifaceted answer because when I was 9, my grandmother died on hospice and we had hospice care come to our house and she was there. The nurse was there every day for like weeks. And that's so scary, first off, when one of your loved ones is dying, but they're dying in your house, which is awkward and weird. And I'm 9 years old. So like, what do I do with that? But I just remembered this nurse coming in and providing comfort to my family. And she provided comfort to my dying grandmother. And I just remember looking up to her being like, wow, that's so cool. I might want to do that.
Wow.
And then my mom always wanted to be a nurse, but she never got the chance to become a nurse because she got pregnant and started having babies. And my dad didn't want her to do that anymore. And she just was a stay-at-home mom at that point. So I think I kind of am like vicariously living through my mom's dream of wanting to be a nurse. Then also just seeing the way that that woman loved our family. I just was like, wow, I wish I could talk to her, whoever, I don't even remember who it was. But when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I remembered that. And I remembered, okay, I think I'd be good at teaching because my grandmother was a teacher. Or I think I would be good as a nurse. And so when it came down to it, I was like, what schedule is better and what makes more money? And it was nursing. And so that's why I chose nursing. And now I've been doing it since 2011.
Wow. Okay. So how did you decide and when did you decide what nurse, like what type of nurse you wanted to be?
Well, whenever you first start nursing, you just take what you can get.
Huh?
You don't get a choice really.
What are the options? What is all the scenarios that you could be?
Well, you could go into like labor and delivery, medical surgical floor, emergency room, ICU. But when I started out nursing, I started out as an LVN. So that's a 1-year degree nurse. And then if you go and get your RN, that's 2-year degree nurse. So the LVNs are more limited on who hires LVNs because they're just not as desirable, if you will, which is silly, but it just is the name of the game. And so for us, we were just told whatever job you get, you take because you just need experience. Because most places, when you graduate as a nurse, whether you're LVN or RN, they say you need 6 months minimum experience. And it's like, well, how am I going to get experience if you don't get me experience? So what I had to do is take what I could get. And the first job I got was at an LTAC facility. So that's long-term acute care, which is basically horrible. Like nobody ever wants to work there. So it was really bad, but it's a long-term care facility, but it's really bad. Patients get cared horribly there. I mean, it's basically like you're done being in the hospital, but you can't go home. Like you need more care, but you can't go home.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of intense, but you have 6 patients minimum. Majority, it's like 15. And that's a lot to take care of being one nurse and you're brand new. So the place I went to work at, it ended up being really sketchy and they promised us all these things. It was a brand new building that had opened up and they promised us all this stuff. And me and 2 of my nursing friends went to work there. And I mean, we were only there for a few days and we were like, this is so sketchy. We have to leave. So days. Yeah. So we called our nursing instructor and was like, hey, this is kind of weird. And the nursing instructor was like, if you feel unsafe, you need to get out. And so we got out.
Safe? What do you mean?
Yeah. There was no process. There was no staff. I mean, they were just taking on patients, but they didn't have staff. I mean, it was so scary. I had so many patients and I was like, this is so unsafe. I can't get to all these patients.
Okay, so unsafe, like somebody could die because you just like there's not the capacity to help.
Yeah. Or
Wow.
deteriorate. Yeah. Because there's no staff, there's no help. It was so sketchy. Like, yeah, the stuff I've seen, it was just like, I can't believe this is
Okay,
allowed.
so when did you get to choose, or when did that happen where you got to go to the ER?
Oh, well, that's been a long, long, long time since I got to go to the ER. But right after that, I got a job with hospice. And it was crazy
Oh.
because that was the only job that would hire me. But that was the one reason
Right.
why I became a nurse, was from a hospice nurse. So I did hospice for 3 years and I loved it. I did not know that I was so good at helping people walk through death.
Wow.
At age 21, I think I was 21, and it just felt like a ministry, but I wasn't following the Lord. But it was cool because the Lord was bringing me people to speak into my life when I was at that time being a hospice nurse. So I did that because that's all there was. And then I got my RN, and the ladies that I worked with were so sweet. They were all older, old enough to be my grandmothers. And they were like, Kellie, you have to leave here and you have to go get more experience because you need to be kicked out of the nest. Because hospice is kind of termed as
Like I could do it?
no, no, definitely not. You could be a hospice chaplain, but basically, like, nobody takes hospice seriously. So if hospice is the only job on my resume, I would look like a joke because I don't have skills. I have skills to help people die comfortably, but I don't have skills to keep people alive.
Interesting.
So it kind of just looks like a joke. So they
Wow.
made me go and get experience, quote unquote experience, you know, at a hospital to where I would learn to keep people alive, essentially. So I listened to their wisdom and I was so sad about it because I really loved it. I just felt like I was on holy ground. I mean, you were with
Yeah.
people for their last breath.
That's a major natural and spiritual experience that you walk out with other people.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I remember because I was not living for Jesus, but I mean, I was raised Christian and I believe I did have Jesus inside of me, but I just didn't know repentance and discipleship.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there was a time where this patient was dying and he had dogs, and the dogs would always sit on his lap. But the second that he got sick, the family members said that the dogs were so scared and were hid under his bed. So the dogs for weeks and weeks and weeks were living under the bed instead of on his belly because they knew he was sick and they knew he was dying. And so I called the family because, you know, whenever you do hospice, you get so good at learning when the body is decompensating and when the death is actually going to happen. So I would be able to say, okay, guys, everybody come into the room. I think we're really close right now. I think we're getting very close. So then the family would come into the room. And right when I said that, the dogs jumped onto his belly, and they've been under the bed the whole time, but they jumped on his belly and were like barking and jumping at the ceiling. And I knew in that moment his spirit left his body, literally left his body. It was crazy.
Whoa, I have goosebumps.
It was so crazy. Like, that was probably one of the most insane, amazing stories. But I knew, I was like, wow, this is so spiritual. But I didn't know, you know, because I wasn't fully following God. But I was like, whoa, did anybody else see that in the room? Nobody else saw it. Nobody else noticed. And I just was like they were yelling at the dogs, telling the dogs to stop. And I was like, y'all, his spirit
Do you know what just happened?
like, bruh, like his spirit just left that body. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
Is that the only thing that you encountered like that, or did you see that?
Oh my gosh, that's the only one that I really truly remember, but there was so many holy moments. I wish I would have wrote them down because yeah, it was so holy and so crazy because I could see certain ones that were fighting really hard for their life at the end. We always knew that there was like unfinished business. Like, a nurse actually wrote a book on this before, and I can't believe I never read it. But yes, the ones that like fight really, really hard when they're dying is because a lot of the times they have unfinished business with either God or family members. And it was the craziest thing because I would see, they'd be like, just hold on until, you know, Aunt Susie gets here, or just hold on until your wife or your son or your some so and so from out of state or out at college comes in, just make it. And so I would just pray that they would make it, you know, but like it was like a brief prayer because I didn't have a prayer life then, you know. But yeah, they would wait until somebody would come in, and then they would like basically make amends, but yet they couldn't because they couldn't talk anymore. You know, they were like so almost to death. And it's like the second that person came, like, could count tons and tons of times. The second the person came, and the person basically like said something to them, and then the patient was at peace and at rest and they could die. It was crazy.
That is so wild.
It was wild. I saw so many things. Yeah.
Did you ever see anybody like make a recovery? Like this was the plan and then it like
Honestly, yeah.
wow.
It was crazy. They would be literally on their deathbed, like not being able to talk. I mean, we're like, okay, it's any minute now. And then they would just like wake up and start talking again. And I'm like, this wasn't the plan. What's going on? And I mean, it happened probably a handful of times. I don't really remember how many times it happened,
Yeah.
but they would shock me. And I'm like,
Wow.
Lord, I don't know how or why, but you gave that person a second wind.
So it's so funny because I feel like now being filled with the Holy Spirit and like knowing nothing but knowing a little bit about humanity, I am so fascinated by like the way that we were created. God designed us and he literally has this whole system and this just everything.
Yeah.
And so you get to like see the human body and like how it was created. And so it's so wild because what you experience and have for how many years? 12 years or how long have you?
I think it's 14 years now
Okay.
because it was 2011 and now it's 2025. Yeah, 14
So
years.
of seeing the body and seeing it do the things it's supposed to do, like
Yeah,
heal and
right.
do all the things, and then seeing the things that are like, yeah, we need to explain that because what just happened.
Totally. And it's not like I was praying.
Right.
And I can't
Yeah.
even tell you if I remember that people were praying, you know,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
for
yeah.
that person to live. I don't remember. I don't
Yeah.
recall, but I did
Wow.
see that a few times. It was rare, but I did see patients. And I'm like, wow, this is not how it was supposed to go.
So you went after hospice to the ER.
No, after hospice, I've worked a lot of different places in my life. I had to get experience as a RN because now I'm an RN. And so they kicked me out. So I had to go work at a med surge floor, which is like one of the worst, most horrible places to work as a nurse.
So, but like, so you go to school for 1 year to be a nurse?
Well, yeah, you go and get all your basics for 2 years, and then you
Okay.
go and be a nurse for 1 year. Yes.
And then
I went to school again for
While you were
another year
working?
while I was working as a nurse.
Okay.
So then I
Now you're
got,
here.
yes, then I got my RN, and now I'm working at this hospital on medical surgical patients. So I did a lot of bariatric patients,
What is that?
which was not my favorite thing, weight loss surgery. So they go and they get their stomach stapled, or they go and get their stomach cut because they can't stop eating.
That is like a whole, that's like,
It's a whole moneymaker, bariatric surgery.
but
Yes.
also you didn't get to decide that, or that was just like another experience, like
No, they chose that.
for you.
I thought you meant the patient. Yeah, the patient chose to get their stomachs cut. Me, yes, it was the only job that would hire me to get experience because my dream was to go work at a trauma hospital, and they would only hire me if I had 6 months of experience. So yeah, I had to go to this hospital.
Are there traumas in bariatric surgery?
No.
Oh, well then why, how
No.
was that correlate?
Well, it didn't. It was just me paying my dues. So, and a lot of nursing is paying your dues.
Wow.
So I could only make it 9 months at this place. I was like trying to get a year, but I couldn't do it. It was
What did
horrible.
You see? You saw people's stomachs be stapled?
No.
I'm trying to imagine what's happening and what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. So what'd you do? You just
Okay,
checked
so
them in?
it's called a medical surgical floor. So either they're a medical patient, so they're there for like appendicitis, or they're there for an infection, or they're there for their heart is acting up.
What did you do?
Okay. Or you had the other floor because there was like 2 of them, and then sometimes they were interchangeable. Then you have the other floor where they had surgeries. So they had their leg broken, they had to have a surgery, or they had their appendix removed, or they had their gallbladder removed, or they had their stomach cut because the hospital I worked at was the #1 bariatric surgery like in the area. So that's why I saw so many bariatrics. So I took care of 6 patients minimum every day, which is it's a lot. And I made them get up and walk. The surgery patients, they have to get up and walk, and they have to do laps, and they have, they have to make sure that they can drink fluids before they go home, and make sure, monitor them, make sure they don't have infections. And then the other patients, I would essentially help keep alive. I mean, just give them their medicines, give them their treatments, give them their therapies, and then make sure that they didn't have infections so that they could go home. So it was a lot of just you're monitoring patients, and then you're doing things to keep them healthy.
What intrigued you about trauma?
I've always loved trauma. I don't know. I've always loved the shows of like the mass casualties, of the crazy people getting hit by like trains. I don't know. It's weird. I've always liked it.
To save people's lives in very extreme circumstances.
Very extreme circumstances, yeah. But I did do a nursing rotation when I was in school in the ER, and this one patient came in and they said that it was a stabbing, but I just thought it was so cool because I was like, what? It's like you're watching those TV shows. You're like, whoa. And then the police come and they're going to get a report. And it was just so exciting, you know?
Do you get to ask them what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the police come and then they come and ask as well. But yeah, no, we have to ask. We have to ask because we need to know, like, what are the injuries like? And so I just remember that being so cool that somebody maybe stabbed and I get to like clean them up and, you know, get them all fixed up.
Like so what you're saying is it's not like the movies.
Kind of, sometimes.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's major plot twists.
Yeah, like Grey's Anatomy, people in the hospital are sleeping with each other and it's crazy. Yeah. Thank God that was never my portion, but yeah.
Did they prepare you for in school mentally?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean,
did you talk to people about the things that you see?
No. So they have chaplains, and so if there is big they have chaplains
for you,
for us. They tell us if something bad happens, like we can always call a chaplain and we can have them come and like talk with us or pray with us or whatever. If there was a traumatic thing, like so one time one of our coworkers died and it was really sad and traumatic.
In a situation or like outside of work?
It was outside of work. Okay. And so she had passed. And it was really, really sad. And so a lot of people were taking it really bad. So they tell you, hey, you know, we have pastoral care if you need it. But like, I mean, a lot of them don't believe in Jesus. And so it's hard because they pray to the universe.
Yeah.
So and they mean well, but that's not going to do nothing for me and my pain.
Wow. Okay. So what I think is so fascinating is a lot of times we are so ignorant because of a lack of knowledge, and your everyday nurse, you can look at them and be like, it's not that bad. But being friends with you for years now, I don't even have words to put in the things that you go through on almost a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you get to identify with someone and their humanity and what their human experience is super powerful. And so understanding the actual craziness that you walk through, like, brings so much more gratitude for nurses because of what they go through and how wild the system is, because it's jacked, right? And you have no way to get around it. You literally have to submit to the system, which is really crazy. Okay. So then what happened after that job?
After that job, I worked my dream job doing surgical trauma PCU patients.
Like PCU?
Progressive care unit. So basically like ICU, you know, intensive care, like you're on vents and machines. Yes. So it's like right under that. Okay. But since I worked at a level 1 trauma center, it was essentially like that. So I was keeping people alive that had horrible traumas, and I loved it because, I mean, all the car wrecks, all of the horrible accidents on dirt bikes and motorcycles, and horrible like falling off the roof, or suicides, like getting shot in the face, or
what?
Oh my gosh, yeah, all the gunshots of people trying to shoot themselves.
You've seen their bodies?
Yeah, them alive after they shoot themselves.
What?
Yes.
How are they alive?
Jesus, I don't know.
Shoot themselves in the head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's crazy because it like just, you know, missed like by a millisecond, you know, like the way that these people were still alive. And some of them were vegetables, but then some of them could talk and walk.
So what has been the wildest thing you have physically gotten to do? Like, have you ever chopped somebody's leg off? Like, have you had to pluck out an eyeball?
No.
What's the situation?
That happens in surgery. I don't do that.
But like in those trauma scenarios when you have like seconds to like
right? But at that time I wasn't in the ER, so I didn't get them fresh. I got them when they had the surgeries, or they were waiting for the surgery, so they were stable. So they came from the ER stable, and then they came to my floor, and or they were going to have surgery, or they had surgery, so I'm keeping them. Okay. So that I didn't have to stabilize them. For the most part, they were stable. It's just keeping them that way. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to see all of that.
All of that.
Okay, so that's like one experience of defying the odds, right? Like, what is another thing that stands out that you saw in people's bodies that like just doesn't make sense, either miraculously or like crazy because they died?
Oh my gosh.
Did a paper cut ever kill somebody and somebody lived, survived
No.
Wow. Okay, Lord, please
No.
just protect my imagination.
And everyone's listening. Sorry if you're like weak stomach,
Oh
but
yeah,
that's
we will definitely put a PSA.
Yeah.
What do they do? They like trauma or I'm letting you know this could be a little bit much. Trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning
warning.
if you're sensitive to like medical stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, there was so many things I saw. I can't recall of like
Wow.
I mean, but in that too, the Lord kept sending me people to just really love me and prophesy over me and call identity out over me. I had this one lady that I love so, so much. She was there for a while and
Worked with you or
she was a patient.
Okay, patient.
Yeah. And she had a super bad trauma and it was an excruciating pain. And she was there for like, I don't even know how many days, but it was sweet because I felt like the Lord, we had conversations about Jesus and I can't remember. She was either like in the church or a worship leader, or she did something in the church and she was having to have like a lot of stuff done because of her trauma was so bad, like so many broken bones. And she was in excruciating pain. And I just loved her. She was so funny and she would like hype me up and encourage me. And it was her birthday. She was spending her birthday in the hospital. And I felt the Lord tell me to like bring her, like celebrate her birthday. So I brought her like a tiara and I brought her like a birthday. I can't remember what I bought her, but I went and I bought her something and I was like, I'm probably not supposed to do this, but I just knew God was asking me to do that, even though I wasn't following Jesus. Yeah. And I brought it to her and I have pictures. I'll have to show you. It's sweet. And now she's like my Facebook friend and she's precious and loves the Lord. Yeah. It was a wild thing, but I told her like your encounter with me made such a difference on my life and that I turned to the Lord so much because of the way that you and your husband loved me while you were in your worst moment ever. And she'll just tell you the opposite. Like you were the best for us. And I was like, no, I wasn't. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't following the Lord. I was living in sin. And she's like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it was powerful. So times like that, that's when I love to be a nurse, when it's actually meaningful and the connection is so real.
Did you ever have like nightmares of what you see, or it's just so normal that even if you do have a dream about it, it doesn't even
Never
phase you?
I don't think I've ever had a nightmare about my job. No. I think God supernaturally helps us compartmentalize. And I just truly think he makes people be able to see and endure things that most people can't. And
you're gonna have to pray for me before. It's so weird. Like I think because of horror movies that I love to watch, like I don't know why, but like medically it like freaks me out so bad. Like I feel like I'm having like images of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they like cut their bodies off.
No. So
Yeah.
I used to watch
like
those movies. That gave me trauma, but no, like what I deal with.
This is real life.
Yeah, but also like it's different. It's different than a horror movie. Like
you're saving somebody's life versus having to run for your life.
Yeah, unless if you're getting attacked by a drugged out man, that's scary, but yeah, it is insane.
Okay. So when did you get to your job now?
Well, just I have to make it like short, fast. I've been through a lot of jobs because there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in my life. I went and I worked and I did pediatrics for a few years because that job was very stressful and I was going through my spiritual transformation. I had just given my life to Jesus again and the trauma and the weight of that job was too much. So I went and I did pediatrics and it was a nice refresher. It was a nice break. I was able to really encounter the Lord and not be stressed out all the time. And so the Lord used that so much. Loved it. Also got to pray for so many kids and their families because that's when God was kind of starting to try to help me be bold. And then they came and prayed for me. So I had a lot of that. I had a lot of Christians coming to encourage me when I was in that time where I was trying to find out who I was and who God was. Well, then I just couldn't do the night shift anymore. I got like sick. I was on nights for like 6 years and I couldn't do it. And
6 years straight?
I did 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. for 6 years straight. It was horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I found a day shift spot and then the Lord asked me to go to ministry school. And so I was doing like urgent care / ER. And then the whole thing happened with me losing my job. And then I had a little stint of working at like IV clinics in like a holistic place. And then the Lord called me back to go work in the ER at that point. And so I've been at the ER now for about probably 5 years. I think it's been about 5 years now of the ER. So
wow. Okay. So in the ER, what does that entail? Like some days it's literally crazy because you do get emergencies. It's an emergency room.
yeah. So a lot of the times it's not. It's just a bunch of, I know it's that, and that's the part I don't like about the emergency room. A lot of times it's just like, oh, I have the tummy bug, or I have the flu, or I have COVID, or, broke my arm, broke my leg, or a sprained ankle, or.
So I broke my leg is not an emergency.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, if it's a little break or if it's a big break, do we have to put you to sleep to pull it back into the place? Like then that's more of an emergency because I'm doing some sedation. But so yes, we get heart attacks. We get people that come in that are non-responsive. We get allergic reactions that can become emergent and fatal, and we get cardiac rhythms that are fatal. I mean, we get emergencies, and you just have to act quick.
I feel like we'll have to do like another podcast on the things that you see in the ER that is kind of like it disrupts the way that we're supposed to be as Christians, and how you see a falsehood of things of not the way that it's supposed to be and all of that. But we're gonna stick to experiences for right now. Okay, so in the ER, there has been like multiple stories about sexual things that you have physically seen that are quite frankly unbelievable to me. How do you deal with that? And what the heck do you do?
You just laugh and keep going.
You laugh?
Oh no. I mean, you have to kind of have a humor when you see objects in holes that shouldn't be there.
Often do you see that?
Often.
Often.
Yeah.
Like that's a normal thing.
This world is perverse.
Okay, one of the things that is also quite shocking to me is some of the responses of that. They're like, yeah, this is just what happened, completely normal, not phased at all, no shame. Like, you want to talk about no shame? These people be like, no shame. So tell me a story that shocked you but did not shock the person.
There's so many stories, and these are either things that like I've been told or things that I've seen.
Okay, so how do you handle seeing things that do not belong in places that they do not belong, and what quite frankly is some of these people are just like your normal everyday Joe, and you don't know who people are.
Her face
and her telling stories about what she's experienced. I will never think anyone is who they say they are.
Yeah, that's why you gotta be careful, especially when you're single and you're out there dating, because people have some weird fetishes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how I deal with it. And I don't know. I think we just, again, the Lord gives us some supernatural thing to just compartmentalize it and to not, like, nothing shocks us because we've seen it all. And it's not okay, but it's like we have a job to do. We're going to take care of this patient, whatever they've done, whatever. And we're going to do the job, and that's it. And that's just how we see it. It's like, okay, you have an object stuck in a hole it shouldn't be in. Okay, we need to get it out, and we need to make sure you don't have internal hemorrhage. We need to make sure you don't need to go to emergent surgery because you might have done damage to your orifice. Like, we don't
an orifice?
An orifice is a hole.
Orifice? What?
Yeah.
I've never heard the word orifice.
Never?
No.
Well, you're welcome.
Heard of an orca whale? Not an orifice. Oh my gosh. Okay, I do believe that there is a grace on nurses, and I just love and honor every single nurse, because y'all be the real MVPs, that you can like see humans as like you do. It's like, I have to save what, like, if something's wrong, I have to make sure that you can like be better, be healthy, be live.
Yeah. And we learn in nursing school, and so do doctors, like, do no harm, right? So I'm not going to harm the patient, but also it's not my place to judge what you're doing, why you're doing doing it. I mean, it's hard to not do that sometimes because you just have questions. You're just like, well, wait. Yeah. So I'm like, now people can understand why I am the way that I am because I get to see this stuff all day long.
I do. I love the caring side about it. It's like it would be hard for my mind not to go the what happens after this route.
Oh yeah, you can't. You have to learn. That's not your
It's not your
place.
job.
No,
Oh
not
my
at all.
gosh.
You're
So okay, that is definitely something. Well, this has been fun. This has been really fun. I do love that you, because of being a nurse, like nothing about the human body weirds you out.
yeah.
And I think that's also cool to have a friend like that because it's like you're with however they are, right? Like if you give birth and you want me there, great. Like
I'll be
checking
there.
all the things out.
Yeah.
Or hey, you probably don't love it as much, but we love having a friend that's a nurse. That's like, what do I do if what this is happening if all the things? But that is crazy. So to lead people who are listening, what's next? Like, where do you see you always being a nurse, or do you see a transition, or what would be something that you love to do next?
Well, this is definitely something that I'm praying about because the ER is good when I get to have like sweet moments with people, but that's not always because you're constantly moving fast and you have to figure things out. And I also love that. Like I work well under pressure. So I know I'm good there, but I just miss those sweet encounter moments with people that I can have long periods of time. But the Lord has sent me people time and time again to tell me, even in the ER, even if it's just like a 2-minute encounter, like, wow, you were so kind to me. Thank you for being kind. Wow, that prayer really blessed me. Wow, the fact that you just said that blessed me, and they're crying. And so it's like, I know God's using it, but I'm tired. And I'm like, Lord, what is next? Because there has to be something more. Like being a nurse in the ER is really hard and it's truly not sustainable. I don't think. I mean, there are nurses that have done it forever and they will just because that's who they are, but it's really not sustainable. So the dream and the goal is to be an entrepreneur and have a business and or multiple businesses and just do nursing like once a week. That would be kind of my dream. Or if I could open up my own practice one day and make it more of a holistic practice, I think that would be amazing and align fitness and nutrition and the whole medicine aspect to it as well. I think that would be great. But the dream is to just be a PRN nurse, part-time nurse, and be a mom. I want to be a stay-at-home mom and I'll still be a nurse. I feel like I'll always be a nurse.
Yeah.
Now I've heard nurses be like, the Lord told me to not renew my nursing license. And I'm like, what? That to me, I'm like, I worked so hard for that. I could never not see me renewing it. But I mean, if he asked me to not do it, then maybe, So that's a dream. I feel like I'll always be a nurse. And sometimes I'm like, well, maybe I'll go deliver babies because I love babies. But we've talked about this. Night shift is you have to do night shift. And I did that for so long, it made me sick. So right now it's up in the air. Right now I know I'm staying where I am and focusing on businesses on the side as well. But yeah, hopefully I won't do this forever and ever to the capacity that I'm doing it because it's tiring. I mean, I get yelled at, cussed at, punched at, peed on. I mean, it's sad the way that people are nowadays, and the mental health crisis is horrible. They have nowhere for them to go. So that part is exhausting. Taking care of sick people and taking care of people that are dying, that's okay. But the mental health portion of it is really hard.
I want to do another podcast about that because as a Christian, you respond in those moments and situations when your flesh wants to literally shred someone up, like is insane.
Yeah.
I don't know how many sweet moments would make up for all the orifices you see. It's not it. Not for you, girl.
I know. It's rough in these ER streets.
Yes. And I'm so proud of you. I'm sure so many people are so thankful. I get people who write me and say, your best friend was my nurse and she made such a difference and all these things. Because it's really cool when they get to tell me stories because you don't get to tell me any of the things except for like whenever it's a story and we don't know who it is and all of that. But it's really cool to see the God things because of you being filled with the Holy Spirit and how you're processing that and how that is real and raw in our humanity of like, I am probably desensitized in things, but it's because of what I physically, spiritually, mentally go through on almost a daily basis. And not many people would probably willingly subject themselves, especially Christians would not probably willingly subject themselves to that as a noble career and job and be in that and be faithful to that. And so I just feel like the Lord says that he honors your faithfulness to taking care of people and caring for their lives.
Thank you.
And it provides the best stories I've ever heard in my life while also being shocked more than I've ever been in my life. So thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
And that was so fun. I hope people just like get a little bit of a heart and wisdom behind nurses and what they go through, while also having the gratefulness and the craziness that maybe you don't really realize on a daily basis. So yes. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Yes. Bye. Bye.